Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So, Konami just dropped a brand new update for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, and I have to say, this one's actually pretty exciting. We're talking about update 1.0002.001. Yeah, that one, and it's packed with fixes, features, and something players have been waiting for since launch: the Fox Hunt multiplayer mode. There's a lot to unpack here, and trust me, this isn't one of those small patches that just tweaks a few bugs. This one actually adds content that changes how people are playing the game right now. So let's start with what's probably the biggest headline: Fox Hunt mode. Konami finally pulled the curtain back on what this mode is, and it's not your typical shooter or co-op mission type of thing. Fox Hunt is more like this tactical hide-and-seek battle that really leans into the whole stealth is survival theme that defines Metal Gear Solid. Instead of going in guns blazing, this mode makes you think like a predator and a survivor at the same time. You're thrown into matches with up to 12 players split into two-person teams, and you have to use stealth, deception, and those classic Snake-style instincts to outmaneuver your opponents. There's something super satisfying about the idea that the best way to win isn't by being the fastest shot in the room, but by being the smartest, most unpredictable one. Now, a cool detail here is that there's no crossplay between platforms, which might sound like a bummer at first, but Konami seems to be going for stability and fair matchmaking before they start mixing player bases. It's also completely free to access. There are no microtransactions, no hidden paywalls, nothing like that. You just boot up the game, update, and you can hop in. That alone already feels like a win because we've seen so many studios attach some sort of monetization system to new multiplayer features. Here, it's all about gameplay, not spending. The mode itself is structured around phases, which keeps matches from dragging on forever. Each phase adds a bit more intensity, and players who get eliminated stay out, so every move you make has actual weight. The maps feel designed around verticality and cover, with plenty of ways to use camouflage and movement to trick your enemies. And that's where two of the most interesting mechanics come into play: at camo and naked sense. 8 camo is essentially an adaptive camouflage system. It lets you change your visual pattern on the fly, blending with your environment almost like a chameleon. It's not overpowered or invisible. It's more of a tactical advantage that rewards quick thinking. If you move too much or choose the wrong time to change, you can still get spotted easily. On the other hand, naked sense is a kind of sensory awareness feature that lets you pick up subtle cues around you: footsteps, movement, direction of sound, things that mimic how a trained operative like Snake would perceive his surroundings. It's honestly a clever balance between stealth and awareness, and it really makes every encounter tense. You start to feel that creeping anxiety every time you hear a twig snap or see a shadow shift, and that's exactly the kind of intensity Metal Gear fans crave. But that's not the only thing this update brings to the table. For PC players, ultrawide support is finally here. That's right, 21:9 monitors can now be fully utilized, and while some menus and cutscenes are still locked at 16:9, the gameplay itself looks phenomenal in that expanded view. The sense of immersion gets a serious boost when you can see more of the jungle stretching out on either side of you. You can almost feel the humidity, hear the insects buzzing in the actual game, not your room, and spot movement in the distance that you might have missed before. It's the kind of enhancement that makes replaying the story feel fresh again, especially if you're one of those players who loves slowly creeping through the environment just to appreciate the detail. There's also a new option to fix or lock the camera distance in New Style mode. This might sound minor, but for a lot of players, camera control is a huge part of comfort and visibility. Having the ability to set the distance exactly how you like it makes a big difference in both combat and exploration. And the new System Environment Viewer lets you tweak visual settings and other performance details without constantly backing out of menus, which is a nice quality of life touch. Now, Konami's patch notes also mention several stability and performance improvements, which I know some players have been begging for since launch. Early builds of the game had occasional frame hiccups, audio desyncs, and that annoying issue where certain soundtracks wouldn't play during specific cutscenes. Those have apparently been fixed. Background music now plays properly where it used to cut out, and timing between actions and music endings is properly synchronized again. That may not sound like a big deal, but Metal Gear Solid relies heavily on its atmosphere, the soundtrack, the tone, the rhythm of each mission. And when that's off, it really breaks immersion. They also fixed a few gameplay bugs, including one involving Rykov not triggering specific actions during a sequence. If you've played that part of the game, you know how weird it felt when that didn't work right. These are the kinds of small polish updates that might not make headlines, but they really clean up the experience. Speaking of polish, performance overall feels more stable across the board. FPS drops are rarer, textures load more smoothly, and those long transition stutters seem to have been ironed out. It's clear Konami is listening to community feedback, and they're not just rushing out random patches, they're actually addressing the stuff people care about most. Now, Here's something worth noting about the Fox Hunt mode again. It's not just a side distraction. Konami's treating it like a fully realized mode with structure and balance. You've got elimination phases, team coordination, and a focus on reading the environment. It feels inspired by the classic Metal Gear Online modes from years ago, but it's updated for the modern era with smoother movement and those unique stealth mechanics. There's also a nice mix of realism and game logic here. Your at camo runs on energy, so you can't just hide indefinitely. You've got to plan when to use it, when to move, and when to risk revealing yourself. Every encounter becomes this little mental chess match, and that's where the fun really lives. If you're the kind of player who loves sneaking up on someone and watching them scramble to find you, you're going to love this. On the flip side, if you're the one being hunted, it's genuinely nerve-wracking. You start second-guessing every sound, every movement in your peripheral vision. That tension builds with each round, especially once the player count starts dropping and the zone tightens. It's one of those modes where no two matches ever play out the same way. What's interesting is that Konami seems to be positioning Fox Hunt as more than just post-launch content. It feels like a test bed for what they might want to do next with multiplayer in the Metal Gear universe. No crossplay now, but imagine if future updates added cross-platform tournaments or even ranked stealth events. This could easily grow into something much bigger if the community response stays strong. And if you've played the base game recently, you'll notice how well the core stealth mechanics transition into multiplayer. The weight of movement, the way lighting affects visibility, even small touches like footprints in mud or disturbed foliage, all of that still applies. It's a perfect extension of what makes Snake Eater so timeless. You're not just playing another shooter mode slapped onto a single-player game, you're engaging with a system that rewards patience, awareness, and creativity. There's also something worth appreciating about how Konami's been handling these updates. They're rolling them out consistently and clearly communicating what's changing. You can tell they're trying to rebuild that trust with the fan base after years of uncertainty. And honestly, this update feels like one of those small steps that starts to restore confidence. They're not chasing trends, they're focusing on what made Metal Gear special to begin with. Now, as for performance on PC after this update, reports from the community are pretty positive. The new patch seems to have reduced CPU spikes in dense areas, and memory usage is slightly more optimized. Load times are shorter, especially when transitioning between jungle zones or checkpoints. It's still not perfect. Some players say there are small hitches during weather transitions, but overall, the experience is noticeably smoother. If you're playing on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, you'll still need an online subscription to access Fox Hunt, PS Plus for PlayStation, and Game Pass Core or Ultimate for Xbox. But aside from that, everything runs natively on the hardware, no special requirements, no weird downloads beyond the update itself. Honestly, this feels like one of those updates that reminds you why people fell in love with Metal Gear Solid in the first place. It's about tension, strategy, and that deep feeling of being part of something covert. Fox Hunt nails that feeling. It's chaotic and calculated all at once. And with the added quality of life changes, the ultra-wide support, and all the bug fixes, the whole game feels more refined than it did at launch. If you've been waiting to jump back into Metal Gear Solid Delta, now's probably the best time. The update doesn't just fix things, it breathes new energy into the game.